Okay. Oops, how can I see everybody? Okay, so if people don't mind turning on their cameras, because I like to see the people I'm talking to. And I think it's probably also helpful if you know that people are seeing you. Yeah, so it helps to pay attention. Okay, so quite happy to be here with you today. And it's really nice that Shantideva is having these kind of programs. I watched Jan Willis's talk a few weeks ago. It was really good. And I think that, you know, as Buddhists, we have something through the teachings that can be shared with everybody that can help the present situation. So I really like the title. Let's see, what was it? Politics, Power, and Peace. Okay, and you know, how to endure the election time and how to make positive change. Yeah, so that's already showing that we have some kind of common motivation. But before we actually start the talk, okay, let's take a moment to really cultivate our motivation of compassion. So lower your eyes and be aware of your breath. Let the mind settle. And then as our motivation today, let's think that we want to share together so that we can learn ways to deal with difficult situations, be they external or internal, so that we can maintain a mind of care and concern and compassion for all living beings, even in the face of difficulty. So that we can remain true to our own ethical standards. And do this so that we can progress on the path to full awakening, with the ultimate goal being of the most effective benefit to each and every living being. And so what we're about to share is one step on that path. But everything we do in our life has an effect, and it counts. So we will make this hour and a half really count together. Okay, so open your eyes, come out of your meditation. So I'm imagining I could start the talk talking about the situation that we're all in and how difficult it is and how everybody starts their talks saying that. And I won't do it because you know that already. Okay. You know it's difficult. You know that sometimes you're angry, sometimes you're resentful, sometimes you're kind, sometimes you're confused. Okay. And, you know, we all know that we don't really know what's going on in our society. And yet here we are as a part of it. trying to do what we can to remain balanced and do what we can to be of benefit to other living beings. And being balanced, remaining balanced, is a prerequisite for being of benefit. Because if we cannot maintain a balanced mind now, then what do we have to share with others? Only our own fear and anxiety and so on. Okay. So it's important to realize that from a Buddhist aspect, perspective, fear, anxiety, worry, these are all afflictive mental states. Yeah. They seem very real when we're in the middle of it, and it appears that the external situation is imposing those emotions on us as if we have no choice about what we feel, because our fear and anxiety and worry or anger or resentment or depression or despair, all of those things just come very easily to our mind. So we start to think, oh, well, that's a completely reasonable way to feel. And everybody who's sane feels that. And it's a correct way. It's not a mistaken or an afflictive way. Okay. Actually, from a Buddhist perspective, all of those emotions are based on what we call distorted conception or inappropriate attention. What that means is that we are interpreting the situation in some kind of distorted way. And that interpretation, that story that we tell, is what underlies and perpetuates the negative emotions. So the key is to start really questioning how we think, the thought patterns that lie behind our feelings. Okay. So we think about it, yeah. First of all, everything that's happening in the country now with the election, and it seems like everything is involved with the election now. It seems like it's all an external event to us, that how we are perceiving it is correct because it's objective, out there, existing just as we see it. Okay, that is part of the fundamental ignorance that we have, because it's not actually how things exist. We'll come back to that a little bit later. So that one's harder to actually understand. But we can see that very often our habitual interpretations and our habitual emotions play out very much in this situation. So, okay, if I can talk freely. Okay, so do you think that there's lying going on? Yeah? Anybody thinks there's lying going on? Okay. Anybody think that there's conspiracy theories that are being propagated that are harmful to the country? Okay. Anybody angry about the lying and the conspiracy theories? Okay. Anybody think that their anger is really motivating them to change and to do something about the situation? Some of you do. Okay, okay. Does anybody feel like your anger is getting in your way? of doing something useful? Some people yes, some people no. Okay. So I'll share some of the things that have been helpful for me in dealing with this, okay? Because I too see lying, I see deception, I see conspiracy theories. You know, I see people with AK-47s walking down the street saying that they're trying to protect the country. And it's natural, you know, those same feelings come up in me. And what also comes up for me is almost this feeling of surprise. Like, how did things get to this point? Anybody else feel kind of shocked? You know, I never had thought, first of all, that I would be living through a pandemic. Yeah. But I never thought I would hear coming out of the leaders of the country, the mouths of the leaders of the country, what I'm hearing. I never thought that I would hear that. So I'm quite surprised by it. And what I find to be very, very helpful to me is to remember this is samsara. Okay, if you're a Buddhist, you've heard the word samsara or cyclic existence quite often. Yeah, the cycle of constantly recurring rebirth, one after another after another. And what makes samsara happen? Our mental afflictions, our distorted conceptions that lead to our actions that, if they're motivated by distortion, by misconception, then those actions, then there's going to be emotions that are afflictive, and there's going to be actions that are very confused and don't always bring the result that we want. Okay. So when you sit there and watch kind of the whole thing and you say, why is this, two questions, why is this happening? And why am I here having to experience this? Okay, why aren't I living somewhere else where this kind of stuff is going on? Okay, because this is the kind of stuff that I would consider happening in other countries, but certainly not in this one. And, oh, it's happening here. Yeah, my preconception is wrong. Yeah. And so to realize that I have a lot of preconceptions in this situation about what America is, what America should be. I grew up in this country, so I was educated about, Declaration of Independence, Constitution, that whole thing. I was taught American exceptionalism, although I never actually completely believed it. Yeah, I grew up during the Vietnam War, so I'm quite familiar with the disillusionment of the government. Yeah, and with some chaos in the country. But I never thought it would be like this. Okay, so why is this happening? We could look at it from a sociological viewpoint, an economic viewpoint, a psychological viewpoint, so many different ways, a cultural viewpoint. And all of these ways have some really good information that help us understand how we got here, yeah, as a country. But if you scratch deeper, again, from the Buddhist viewpoint, it all comes because of this basic misconception that we have that we are an independent person, yeah, in control of things, and that what we perceive with our senses exists exactly the way we perceive it. Yeah. And it's out there and objective. And none of that is right. Okay. None of that is right. Gee, you mean my whole viewpoint on life is wrong? Yeah. It's kind of like that. So it's actually, we should rejoice that we're wrong, because if our viewpoint were right, then there would be nothing we could do about the situation. If we looked at the situation and it was objective out there, and I'm a real person who's in control of things, then everything's stuck the way I am right now, because I think I'm in control, but I can't control anything. Yeah. And how I'm seeing things with people divided into camps of friends and enemies and strangers. All of that would be real. Okay. If I saw the world like that, with my anger being justified, my resentment being correct, then I'm stuck. What can I do? I have all the correct emotional responses and I'm seeing the situation correctly. So then it doesn't offer me any alternatives about changing perspectives, changing emotions, or dealing with the situations. Are you getting what I'm saying? So if we can acknowledge that the way we're seeing things may not be completely correct, that gives us space to change how we are looking at situations. And as we change that, emotionally, how we feel changes. Okay, so I'll share with you just some of the things I do. Think of one of the politicians, because we all are talking about politics, power, and peace. Okay, I won't mention any names, but you pick one who drives you totally buggy. Okay, just one. Yeah, start with one. Don't start with all of them, okay? So pick one that just drives you buggy. Yeah. Think of him, imagine his face. And think that that person, as they're appearing to you right now, is not who they have always been. That person was once a baby. Okay? So there you have, forget about what he looks like now. Remember what he looked like as a baby. And most of us, when we see babies, we like babies, don't we? Yeah, we smile at babies. They're cute. We want to help babies. We have a fondness for babies. And babies seem that they haven't experienced so much conditioning in this life. And so they aren't full of, all the neuroses that the rest of us have. Okay. So here was this person, forget who they are now. They were this really cute baby. And so maybe they were like the baby of your friend or the baby that you saw in the grocery store in the good old days when you used to go to the grocery store. Yeah. And you saw this cute little baby in the basket ahead of you and you smiled and played with it. Okay. And then, if you think, okay, this politician who's driving me crazy now, they haven't always been who they are now. They were once that adorable baby. Yeah. So what we're getting at is they are not a fixed personality. Just as we've been conditioned by our environment, our family, and so on, that person also was conditioned by their environment, their family, their culture. Yeah. They didn't choose what family to be born into and what kind of upbringing to have, or what kind of religion or culture or political philosophy to be exposed to as a child, just as we never chose that either. All of us were just born into a situation created due to our previous life's karma. But we never, kind of sat there rationally and selected it. Yeah. And nobody ever thought when they were growing up, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to work for InfoWars. I want to spread conspiracy theories when I grow up. No kid aspired to do that. Yeah. Just as no kid, ever thinks, I want to grow up and be a prison guard. So here are people pushed around, affected by their gut, by so many different factors as they're growing up that really influence how they think right now and how they behave right now. So the fact that they were conditioned from being this innocent little baby to being who they are now means that they can change, that they don't have a fixed personality. And it also means that they can go from being who they are right now to changing and becoming somebody else in the future with different ideas, different ways of behavior. Okay? So that gives a little bit of space in our mind about that person. Now, when we think of that person, we probably think of them in certain situations. Yeah. They are always saying X, Y, and Z. They always have such and such a tone of voice. They are always ridiculing or bad mouthing these, kind of people. As if that were the whole embodiment of their life. As if they acted that way 24/7. Yeah. We don't see them smiling. We don't see them as people who have families and care for their family. Yeah. We don't see them as people who are tired at the end of the day and just want to collapse. We don't see them as people who have hobbies and who might have the same hobbies and interests we do. We don't see them as people that we could possibly meet in a different situation and have a very different relationship with them than the relationship we have with them now. Okay? So what I'm getting at here is we have created a very limited image of who this person is. And when we actually don't know very much about them, what they're like inside. Do they have regrets? How do they make peace with themselves when they've made a mistake? Yeah. How do they feel when they're criticized? So when we think about these kind of aspects of somebody's personality, we begin to see that this rigid image we have is really incorrect. Mm-hmm. And especially that if we met them in a different situation, we would have an entirely different relationship with them. And I've experienced this a lot when I lived in India. And I would meet all sorts of different people. And of course, my mind that, oh, I like this person, they're a friend. I don't like that one. That one's an enemy. My mind with 1,003 opinions about everybody would always go to work with I like and I don't like. And then it would be very interesting. Sometimes I would find myself traveling on a train in India or in a bus, and I would be alone, and it would be really nice to have a companion. And I would start talking to one of these people on the train or the bus. And as I talked to them and got to know them, the whole way I thought about them changed. And the whole way I related to them changed. So I know that from my own experience, yeah, that how I think of people isn't always correct. And that if I'm angry and resentful, then I'm really putting people in a mental box that is in my own mind, that is not who they really are. So I'll tell you something that I do to break through that mental box, because there's a lot of people right now who are in my mental box of, oh God, this person is too much. And, at the Abbey, we do a lot of bowing, okay? Prostrations are a big purification practice that we do. So when I bow, I often imagine all those people standing around me. And I think they're bowing to the Buddha with me. And when I chant the prayer generating bodhicitta, I imagine these people chanting that prayer too. When I recite the verse of the four immeasurables to generate love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, I think those people are reciting it and meditating on it too. Okay. So this really, really helps, because I'm imagining these people in a totally different situation. Yeah. Doing something that I consider really worthwhile. And I imagine them being influenced, they're bowing to the Buddha, and the light from the Buddha, the compassionate and purifying light from the Buddha is flowing into them. Because this is how we visualize when we do purification. It's flowing into us, it's flowing into them. I think of those people really meditating on the four immeasurables, and their hearts beginning to soften and feel some peace. Okay. So all of this I find very, very helpful. And what it does is it reconfirms that my view of who this person is limited and incorrect. Yeah. And that actually this person has a lot of possibilities. And I don't know if those other possibilities will blossom in this lifetime, but in future lifetimes they can. And so since I clearly have some karma with these people, if I make dedication prayers that by, being able to improve my own mental state and progress along the path to Buddhahood, when I encounter these people in future lives, may I be a benefit to them. Yeah. May I introduce them to the Buddha's teachings. May I, open their minds to new things and have a good relationship with them. Okay. So the fact of making these kinds of aspirations, again, it really turns around what my relationship with this person looks like. And it also reminds me that they have not always been who they are today, and they will not always be who they are today. And then if we really use some of the Buddhist meditations, for example, that everybody has been our mother in a previous life and has taken care of it, taken care of us, as our mother. So, of course, to do this, you first have to make peace with your mother of this life. That's very important to do, okay? And to realize that our mothers of this life, they were doing the best they could, considering the situation they were born into. Yeah, considering their own limitations. But they really, we would be lost without the help of our parents or whoever it was that took care of us when we were really little. And then you imagine that, this person or these politicians now, once you were in that kind of very loving relationship with them and they took care of you, or in a previous life, they were your child and you took care of them in the way that a parent loves their child. So just imagining this, thinking of this, it opens our mind so much, because so much of the confusion and pain we have is because of our own preconceptions. Okay. Another thing people are suffering from a lot now, I think, given the stuff with the election combined with the pandemic, what a mixture for a mess, is this feeling of separation. I think a lot of you are from New York who are watching this. Oh my goodness, you're stuck in these flats and you can't go out and walk. And, you have a small flat, so there's not much change in scenery. And you go outside and, there's concrete and asphalt and yeah. And so somehow that feeling of separation that is so easy to come. And so I think there's a lot that we can do to overcome that. Yeah. And one of the basic things, again, that I use quite a lot is the Buddhist teaching that we actually all knew beforehand, which was everybody wants happiness, nobody wants suffering. And we're all exactly alike in that regard, aren't we? Each one of us wants only happiness. Each one of us doesn't want any suffering. Okay? We'll take the smallest happiness and we don't even want the smallest suffering. Okay, let alone the big ones. Okay, and we're all exactly the same in that regard. And we wake up in the morning, and usually when we wake up, we think about our day. And what am I going to experience? Who am I going to meet? What's going to happen to me? What pleasure will I have? Will I see the people that I really care about today? Or will I see the people that I don't like today? Our thought all day long is basically about ourselves, isn't it? Hello? It's basically about ourselves. Who do we dream about at night? Ourselves. Yeah. Whose problems do we worry about the most? Our own. Who has the worst problems in the whole universe? I do. Nobody's problems are as bad as mine. Nobody's trust has been betrayed as badly as other people have betrayed my trust. Yeah. My body hurts more than anybody else's body. My kids are like, my whole life is chaotic, more than anybody else's life is chaotic. Okay. So this is a little bit of a narrow view, don't you think? Yeah. There's over 7 billion human beings on this planet. And who do we focus on the most? Who's the center of everything? Me. Hello, it's me. And if you think you're the center of everything and that your happiness is more important than anybody else's and your pain hurts more than anybody else's, you're wrong, because I'm the center of the universe and my happiness counts first and my suffering has to be removed first. Okay, so don't you think it's the other way around? But, there's a problem with this, is that even though we warn everybody that, they should really know by now that we're the center of the universe, they still hold on to their wrong idea that they are. Yeah, incredible, isn't it? The stupidity. They don't realize that we're more important than them. Yeah, so we're actually very much like all other sentient beings, aren't we? Yeah. We have different things that make us happy. Yeah. I like mint chocolate chip ice cream. You might like, what's that gooey stuff? Not pudding, but with the little white balls in it. What do they call that? Anyway, you like some other dessert that I find disgusting. Yeah. So we have different things that make us happy. We have different things we like to do. We have different things we don't like to do. Okay. But those are all on the superficial level. In our hearts, if we really look into the hearts of everybody, we're exactly the same in wanting happiness and not suffering. And there's not one single sentient being that's different. And even if we start to include the animals and the insects, I mean, that's all they want. Yeah, we live out in the middle of a meadow and forest. So we share our buildings with a lot of different kind of insects. Okay. And when we look at them, it's like, okay, we know you think you're resident of this building, but actually you belong outside. But we respect you as a living being with feelings who doesn't want to be squashed. Yeah, you want to live just like I want to live. So I will put something over you and put some paper under that and then carry the jar outside and liberate you and hope in future lives I can introduce you to the Dharma, and so that time you will have real liberation. So you start, when you realize this, then we see that we can look into every single person's eyes, and we can look into their heart, and we know what's going on in their heart. They want happiness, they don't want suffering. Bottom line. Okay, so this is, I find, really helpful. Okay, so that some of the people that really frighten me are you'll remember when the governor of Michigan set up some rules for COVID to prevent it from spreading. And then there was a march on the Capitol, and these big guys came, the big macho guys. You remember them? Yeah, they all had beards. They all had, caps, and they all had AK-47s or whatever it was, strapped across their chest. And they all stand with their legs apart and their hand over their AK-47. The big macho look of I am powerful. Yeah. So, I find them intimidating when I look at them. I don't particularly like being around guns. But when I look into their heart, when I don't look at that external appearance, which is a big show that they're putting on, that actually is trying to hide what's going on inside of them. When I look past that, and then I see, oh, here's somebody who just wants to be happy. That's all. That is what is motivating everything they do, is the wish to be happy and the wish not to suffer. They're not bad people. They don't really want to, take out a gun and spray the environment. They're just trying to be happy, and they're very confused about the way to find happiness. They think looking like that makes them happy. But I don't think it really does. Yeah. They think that looking like that may make people respect them. But you know what? Fear and respect are two different things. People may fear them, but not respect them at all. And if we look beyond and see, here's somebody very confused, trying to be happy. And we can have compassion for that kind of person, can't we? Yeah. Isn't that somebody who's worthy of compassion? Somebody who thinks that intimidating others or harming others or stirring everybody else up with conspiracy theories or whatever people are doing that we don't like. People who think that doing that is going to help them feel good about themselves, is going to help them have self-respect, is going to help them have friends. Yeah, there's a lot of confusion going on in that mind. That person's the kind of person we should have compassion for. So compassion doesn't mean that we get all gooey. Oh, you poor little boy, who's 2 feet taller than me. It's not like that. But we can at least open our hearts and relate without a feeling of separation to that person. with that person. And we can even open our minds a little bit and talk to them and try and understand how they think, and try and understand what their life experience has been like, and try and understand why they see, well, first of all, how they see things, and then why they see things. Yeah. And it's very good to try and talk to people who are very different from us, but do not have the attitude that you're going to change them. Yeah. If you think, okay, Uncle so-and-so who always, is voting for the people, and I'm going to talk with him and change him. Forget it. That's not the way to have a good discussion. That's not a good way to connect with somebody. Uncle so-and-so, he is who he is. You want to connect on a human level. So ask questions. And when you ask questions, listen. Don't interrupt. Just listen to what the person says. And if you don't understand how different ideas connect, just say, could you explain that to me again? Don't say, what you said make absolutely no sense. How can you believe that rubbish? That's not going to go over well, okay? You just say, I don't understand that well. Could you explain it to me again? Or how does this relate to that? Yeah. In other words, you talk to them with respect in the same way that you would talk to a friend. And then what is very helpful, whatever they say, kind of try and mirror it back. Repeat what they've said in a different, in your own language. And that helps us to see if we've understood them correctly. And it helps them know that they've been understood. Because I think a lot of the thing with some people is that they don't feel understood and they don't feel heard. And if we can be quiet long enough to really listen to what they're saying from our heart, we may be the one person who they feel they can open up to. And that could really alleviate a lot of the pressure that they have inside themselves. Okay, so we have to set aside our own ideas. Yeah, set aside our wish to correct them. Yeah, when they say, oh, but so-and-so said this and they're wrong, and what they're repeating is not what that other candidate said, that what they're repeating is not true. Just, listen to it and say, oh, it sounds like that really disturbs your mind, doesn't it? And they'll go, yes, it drives me crazy. But it's a way to draw somebody out and help them to feel understood. Yeah. So when you're doing this, you don't want to reinforce if they say things that are false. You don't want to reinforce those things. Yeah. But you can show that you can indicate that you understand how that person is feeling. Okay. It sounds like what this particular candidate is saying makes you really disturbed, or you feel a lot of fear when listening to this person. Okay, so you can connect by just asking them what they're feeling. But again, like I said, it gives us some way to expand our viewpoint and to really connect. And after a while, that person may ask us how we see things and what we believe. Yeah, and then we can try to explain. But even if they don't, that's okay. Yeah. Uh, my model for this kind of thing is Marshall Rosenberg teaches NVC. Many of you probably know of his work. And in one of his books, I can't remember the title of it, he was telling the story of being picked up by a cab driver who started saying all these incredible anti-Semitic things. And Rosenberg himself is Jewish. Okay, so he's in this cab and the driver is just saying all this anti-Semitic stuff. And Rosenberg just kind of talks to him and says, oh, it sounds like you've had some really negative experiences with people of that faith. Oh, yes, I have. They do this and that. And Rosenberg says, oh, that's interesting because I've had really different experiences with them. Not dismissing what the cabbie said, but just saying, I've had different experiences with them. And, just kind of having some dialogue about it. And eventually kind of the cab driver really calmed down. And Rosenberg was able to, he never told the guy that he was Jewish, but he did say, I've had different experiences. I've had some really good times with these people and they've helped me a lot. And I hope in the future you might meet some people that you connect with really well. Yeah, so it ended in a really good way. Yeah. So I think, what we can do to connect in whatever way we can with other people is good. So that's with people who are difficult. I always go do the difficult ones first. Okay. But then there's people that you meet that are easier to connect with. And I'm not just talking about friends and relatives who, of course, you probably still connect with in the situation we're in, but also strangers. When you do go down the road, walk down the road, smile. People think that masks, cover your face and you can't tell what's really going on. I don't really have that feeling. I think people's eyes tell a lot. Yeah. And if you make eye contact with somebody and you smile, you can smile under your mask. They don't see your teeth, but your eyes smile. Yeah. And smiling eyes have a big impact. So, just with the strangers that we see, we can have that kind of connection. Or, when you go to vote, if you're standing in line for 8 hours, like some people have to, you can look at people and chat with them without complaining together. Because some of the ways that we bond with people is we share our complaints and they have the same complaints. Then all we do is, complain together. And that's the way we bond. You have to make yourself stop and say, do I really want to bond with other people by complaining? Yeah. Because when we complain, I mean, who feels happy after they've spent the afternoon complaining? Even 5 minutes when we complain, we don't feel good about that. But if you're standing in line somewhere or whatever, instead of complaining about the situation, see if we can find something to laugh about, talk about something, reach out to somebody in some other kind of way. Yeah, share your snacks with them. You know, yeah, just something. We can be really creative in that way. Okay, so so when you do this, then how you see other people really transforms. Yeah, and so that helps us keep ourselves balanced in this, and it also gets us going just on connecting with other people with a smile, with a conversation, in some way, so that people feel recognized and important and valued. And if we think that everybody has been our kind parents and we've been their parents and before, then, you know, why not share some goodness and kindness in that way? Okay. Then the second part is making, uh, contributing to society in a positive way. So I think just by keeping ourselves balanced, that's already a huge contribution. Okay. Wearing a mask is a huge contribution. Yeah. We're not only protecting ourselves, we're protecting everybody around us. We are modeling that for other people. That's a way to contribute to the common good. Yeah. To me, when somebody wears a mask, they're saying, I care about other people. So that doesn't mean I'm going to get down on the people who don't wear masks and say, oh, you don't care about anybody but yourself, you know. But it does mean that I want to smile at those people and I want to indicate I care about them. Okay, so yeah, seeing what we can do on a personal level with people, volunteering to work at the polls if you feel safe doing that with your mask on, because they're really short of people who work at the polls. And we really need people working there because we really have to get as many people out to vote as possible. Encouraging your friends to vote. If people need a ride to get to the polling place, give them a ride. I think there's some people out there organizing rides for people who don't have cars. Maybe connect with them. Yeah, because with voter intimidation going on and people not having cars or transportation, if we can offer something, that can be really, really good. And then I also have something that I found. Okay, just for people who are interested in this. The article it was put on CNN, and the headline says Georgetown created fact sheets on illegal militias at the polls and what you can do if you spot them. Okay, so if you, in our state, everybody votes by mail-in ballot. This is my cat, by the way. Okay, I'll show you the rest of her if she comes back up here. Okay, so it's quite interesting, because a lot of these militias they're actually illegal. And if there's trying to intimidate people, there's a number that you can call to report it. I would hope that the police would help, but I'm not sure. But the number is 866 OUR-VOTE, OURVOTE. So whatever the numbers are for our vote, with 866 before that. Okay. So reporting that, and then, let the authorities handle it. Okay. And then, after the election, being a force for good, working in our own communities, working with the people we know, doing volunteer work. Yeah, we all have to look at what are our own special talents and abilities. What do we have to give to society? And all of us have very different skills. We have very different things that interest us, and we need everybody's contribution. So think of what your skills are, think of what you can do, and then go and do it. We don't have to wait for the election to be over. We can do that now. But when we give with a mind of compassion, we actually receive so much. It's amazing. Yeah. I've done prison work for many, many years, and I think I've learned much more than the guys that I've communicated with. Yeah, so reach out and do something, and do what you're good at doing. Okay. So I think we have some time for questions, maybe answers.
Thank you so much, Venerable Chodron. I invite everyone, if you have questions, to ask them in the chat area. And we did have one that had come in, and it is, what about someone wishing to be happy, but like the white supremacists are causing severe harm and death to others? How do we have compassion and stand up to this hate at the same time? How does one get past the fear of them in order to see them with compassion?
Okay. So I think I talked about how to get around the fear of them by seeing them, when they were babies, by seeing that they just want to be happy and not suffer. Okay. And then read the first part of the question again.
Okay. So someone like white supremacists are causing severe harm and death to others. How do we have compassion and stand up to this hate at the same time?
So here it's very important to separate the person from the action that they're doing. Okay. Every person has the potential to become a fully awakened Buddha. Everybody. Okay. Even that one you visualized, earlier in the talk. Everybody has the potential to become a fully awakened Buddha. So we do not want to criticize the person. What we are commenting on is the behavior and the attitude. Okay, we're not criticizing the person. We're saying that behavior is inappropriate, that attitude is, that behavior, that action is harmful. Yeah. And that's what we want to point out, and to realize that that person is under the control of a distorted conception and disturbing emotions. Yeah. That these factors are very strong in their minds, just like they're strong in our minds. Okay. When you're really angry, can you control things? Can you control your mood? Yeah. When you are really fixated on having something, can you calm yourself down? When you're really jealous, can you settle your own mind? So we realize that just as our mind gets overwhelmed by disturbing emotions and wrong conceptions, so do other people's minds. So we have to have compassion for them because their emotions and distorted conceptions run the show. Then these distorted conceptions and disturbing emotions make the people do negative actions. And then that negative actions, those negative karmas, will ripen in terms of the person's rebirth, in terms of what they experience in their life, and so actually when they're acting in a harmful way, they may be damaging some people this life, but they are creating the cause for their own suffering in the future lives. Yeah. So we should not go, oh, good, I hope in the future lives they really get it. No, that's not an attitude to cultivate. But what we can do is say, realize, wow, this person, they have no idea really of how cause and effect works. And they don't realize that they're creating the cause for their own misery right now. And even in this life, they think that what they're doing or what they're saying or what they're advocating is going to bring them happiness. And it's not going to. Yeah. So we have compassion for the person who is suffering under the influence of their own disturbing emotions and wrong views. And we remember that person has the Buddha nature. So we can't just look at them and say they're useless and throw them out. They have the Buddha nature. We have to respect them. Okay.
Thank you. There is a temporary silence of questions, but there is one that has been asked before, or the role of anger. Can it ever be channeled into good? Is it always negative?
Okay. Now, I know His Holiness the Dalai Lama has sometimes talked about, what do they usually call it? Righteous anger. That's it. That's what they usually call it. So His Holiness sometimes talks about that. But I've only heard him talk about that when he talks to Westerners. I've never heard him talk like that to Tibetans. Yeah, when he talks to Tibetans, he especially about what's going on in Tibet and the tragedy there, he says, don't hate the communist Chinese. Yeah, don't hate them. And, deal with the situation, do what we can in a positive way, but don't hate those people because, yeah, I mean, they're confused and they're and their government controls a lot of what they can say and do. So it's the same kind of thing here. And anger, when you hear the Buddhist definition of anger, okay, it's a disturbing emotion that is based on exaggerating the negative qualities of someone or something or some situation. And based on that, wanting to strike back at what we consider harming us, either strike back directly or quote, quote, strike back by, getting out of there. And, that's the definition of anger. So anger, from the Buddhist viewpoint, is based on exaggeration. Okay, we're exaggerating the negative qualities of someone, of something. Yeah, most often because that person doesn't realize that what I think is always right and my views are the best one, and I am the center of the universe. Yeah, they don't realize that. So I'm not saying everybody's values or actions are of equal worth or truth. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying with our anger, we always put ourselves up and other people down. And there's distortion involved in that. Also, when we are angry, do we think clearly? Do we communicate clearly? when we're angry, when you look at your own experiences of your own anger, do you often say or do something that you regret later? Do you say or do something that leads to the opposite of the kind of result you want to have from the interaction? Okay. If we really study our anger, we'll see that it's pretty ineffective at bringing about what we want. And instead, it brings a lot of problems. So this idea that it's only anger that will motivate us to correct injustice, I don't subscribe to that idea, because in watching His Holiness over many, many years, what I've seen is that compassion is a much stronger force than anger. That when we can have compassion for the people whose actions we think are harmful, then if we communicate with them, we can think clearly about what to say. Yeah. When we're angry, we can't communicate very well. We yell, we scream, we shout. Does anybody listen to us when we're angry? Yeah. When you flip the situation, when somebody's yelling and screaming at you, do you take it in? Do you listen to them? Yeah. Or do you just go, boy, this person's really, they're out of their mind with anger right now. Yeah. So when we have compassion, then we can really think more clearly, and what would be a remedy that, could meet the needs of both sides. And actually, before you even go to that, you start to think, what are the needs of the people on the two sides, or three sides, or four sides? What is this quarrel, this disagreement about? Really, what are the issues? Because sometimes parties that are disagreeing, one party thinks the issue is about this, the other party thinks the issue is this. They're totally moving past each other. Okay. When we're angry, we don't stop and think, how is the other person seeing this? We don't think, how can I explain my viewpoint in a way that the other person can understand? Okay. So when we have a sense of compassion for the other person, for ourselves, for all the different people involved, then, our mind is more balanced, and we can actually, say things and think of ideas that, might bring the kind of result that we want, and that are and a result that is satisfactory to the different people in the situation. Okay. So I don't believe in righteous anger.
Thank you. We had a question from Kamalee. Do we have a duty, though in terms of bodhicitta, to listen to someone's negative speech? At what point is it okay for us to walk away and try not to engage them in understanding?
Okay. So each conversation you have with somebody is going to be very different. If you're with somebody who is clearly just talk, and they just want to dump their viewpoint out, they don't want to really have a conversation, yeah, then you don't need to stick around. You can, listen for a few minutes and then say, please excuse me. Yeah, And if you're listening to somebody who just loves running other people down, you can excuse yourself from the situation. But then there are other situations where you sense that, gee, it would be interesting to kind of, see what this person is really like, see what they really think. Yeah. And then try and have a conversation with them. Or I did this one time during a very large gathering of people. I was in my teacher was having a whole program that lasted 3 months. And I gave myself the assignment to talk to everybody in the program and at least once and have a good conversation with them. Even though I knew, that already my mind was having lots of opinions about everybody there, and they weren't always good opinions. So I told myself, you're going to talk to everybody here, and you can find one topic. There's got to be one topic that you're both interested in that you can talk about. Okay? And so, if you approach talking with somebody about this, you'll find something to talk to them about. It doesn't have to be about the current political situation. Okay? You can start talking about something else. When we first moved to the Abbey, there was one man who came, he had to fix the septic system. So I went outside to talk to him. I didn't know who the guy was. It turns out he's a libertarian. Yeah. And okay. Now you get to meet the kitty. This is my tree. Her name means love. She's trying to live up to it. Okay. Put your paws together, my tree, and say hello. What she's actually saying in cat language is feed me. Okay. If you know how to translate cat language into human language, yes, we know you want to be fed, sweetheart. Wait, hold on. Okay. Where was I? Yeah. So I was out there with our libertarian guy who's fixing the septic system. And he starts telling me about, I don't know, he had something on his property that wasn't legal. And so the sheriff came up to his property to say that he had to remove this or that or whatever it was. And he was telling me the story of how he took out his gun and the sheriff left his property instantly, kind of, I don't know who was brave enough to take out their gun and, fiddle around with it in front of the sheriff. But anyway, he was telling me that story. And he felt very good about having scared the sheriff away. Okay, that didn't impress me very much. But then we kept on talking. And then I asked him about his family. And he has 3 kids. And so he was saying how he's very involved in his kids' education. He goes to the meetings with the teachers. He goes to the assemblies. He really wants to check out what his kids are learning, And then finally, because I used to be a teacher before I ordained, so I'm interested in education. Then we had this great conversation about how wonderful it is when parents are really interested in their kids' education and when they, cooperate with the teacher and da 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 da. Okay. And I left that saying, wow, this is amazing, because at first I thought, what am I going to talk to this guy about? But, you can always find, we're all human beings. We share the human experience, don't we? There's got to be things for us to share on a heart-to-heart level.
Thank you. And then Gina asks, how do I manage my changed feelings toward a friend or family member when I find out they support a politician or policy that I feel is causing harm to my family or others? I feel less warmth toward them and want to distance.
Okay, so you're feeling that their behavior is disrupting the family, or that they're believing in a political thing that you feel is disruptive? Which was it? Can you tell from the question, Jennifer?
No, I cannot, but Gina, you're welcome to unmute and share if you'd like.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the teaching and for taking my question. No, it's like I have some friends at work, for example, and then I'm close to them. I feel a closeness to them, a sense of, you know, some kind of a closeness that you have in a work relationship, for example. And then I find out from them that they like a certain politician and they support a certain policy. And for example, on immigration, maybe. And I feel really like a changed opinion of them after that. It's hard for me to feel. It's like the love I had for them feels like it's been compromised, and I don't. And it's sad because I feel sad about the loss of that, but I also feel like, you know, I'm causing this somehow, and you know, my mind shifted. It's a shift. I don't know. Anyway, I'll stop commenting if you can speak.
Okay. So from what I can gather is you found something out about a colleague that you were fond of, and that really changed your whole opinion of that person. And you feel really, you would love to go back to having that good opinion of them and having the close friendship that you had, but you don't know how to do it considering what they believe and what you heard them say. Is that it? Yeah. Who else has that problem? Yeah, I imagine it's quite a frequent one. So there's a few things. One is, for the time being, keep that area, that topic of difference to the side and relate to them in the same friendly way that you did before, talking about the same kind of things you did before without talking about the stuff you disagree on. Okay? So that will help rebuild the friendship and let that person know that you still care about them. Yeah. And then at a later time, when you feel comfortable, you know, you might try saying, you know, there's something else that's happened that I would really like to talk with you about. And I realize that we don't agree, and that's okay with me. You know, I can tolerate our disagreement, but I would really like to understand how you see this kind of thing, because it's quite different from how I see it. Yeah. And just say, you know, it's really confusing for me. You know, let them talk for a while and explain why they see, you know, why they think it's okay to round up all the families and throw them in cages. And listen to that. And then, you know, if you've spent some time reestablishing the feeling of friendliness with them, then it could be that as the conversation progresses, you know, you could say, yeah, I can understand how you might see this. When I look at the same kind of thing, it really pains me. And this is how I feel about the situation. But really say beforehand that, you know, acknowledge, yeah, it's one topic that we don't have a common view on, but we can still be friends. Yeah. So yeah, your feeling towards them may change. You may not be as close as you were before, but you can still be friends. And I think after some time, if the force of friendship is there, you can have a good discussion about these things and hopefully work them out. So to the point where at least you understand where somebody's coming from. Because we usually think, oh, if somebody has this position on immigration, they must think X, Y, and Z, and they must feel X, Y, and Z. But that's not necessarily true. Okay. Let me give you an example, especially talking about immigration. There's people that I know. I mean, I actually know a lot of people who are immigrants to this country. And I would assume that people who are immigrants really want there to be easy immigration policies without people being, checked on so much and all this kind of rigmarole and court dates and blah, 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 blah. I would think that that person would be very much for immigration. And what I've realized is that my assumption has been wrong on multiple occasions. And when I've listened to how these people speak, is because they came in a legal way and they had to work really hard. They had to go through all the rigmarole and the fingerprinting and the interviews and the background checks and the this and the that. And they went through the whole thing in a legal way. And they feel somehow that somebody else coming in and getting to skip over all of that is somehow not fair. Yeah, that just as they were screened, other people should also be screened. And that really surprised me that, that somebody who's an immigrant would think like that. But hey, it's great when my preconceptions are wrong. There's another one down the drain. And I learned something a lot that day. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we're at the end or at the beginning of putting it all into practice. Okay, so we're gonna just do a dedication now. So think of all the merit as like a very bright light at your heart. All the merit we've created as individuals and as a group. And send that light at your heart out to all the living beings. And really think of sending it to the people that you feel the most uncomfortable around. And imagine that as the light touches them, it completely softens their personality. And instead of being tough or angry or cynical or whatever, imagine that they become happy. Imagine that they become peaceful and accepting. And imagine that someday you may encounter them and have a nice connection with them in one way or another. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And so once COVID is over, we invite you all to come visit the Abbey. In the meantime, please stay safe and nurture your inner goodness, nurture your good heart.
Thank you, Venerable Chodron, so much on behalf of all the students of Shantideva Center, everyone here. We so appreciate you teaching us and offering these perspectives. If it's okay, I just wish to share a few things. One is, Sine, I don't know if you could put the link again, but if you wish to make a personal offering to Venerable Chodron, you can use the PayPal information, and that allows you to support her in the Abbey and make a stronger karmic connection. So that's there. For anyone who has offered to this event in particular, thank you so much. And we do offer a portion of that as well to the Abbey. And then Venerable, I don't know if you would be willing to maybe share a little bit about the Buddhist Action to Feed the Hungry online gathering.
Yeah. Okay, so we're working together with an organization called Buddhist Global Relief with Bhikkhu Bodhi. Some of you may know him. And so this Saturday, we're having an activity online from 10 to 12 Pacific time as an event to let people know about what Buddhist Global Relief is doing and to encourage contributions, because they have connections with many people in different countries. Their main emphasis is on eliminating hunger. And so, yeah, so we just have an event with them this coming Saturday. We welcome everybody to participate and join us.
Thank you. And there are so many wonderful teachings at the Abbey available from their website, Venerable Chodron, and many visiting teachers. And I just also wish to share, for those of you, especially who are new to our community, we've had the great fortune to have some very wise and distinguished teachers teach in the next couple of months or so. So I invite you to check out the website. If you happen to notice that they're all male, I would like to point out that our recent teachers were female, so we try to have it balanced. But this is a wonderful opportunity to study and meditate with them. And just wish to thank you once again so much for taking the time.
And thank you, everybody at Shantideva, and all the people who aren't at Shantideva, for your practice and your interest in the Dharma. And thank you, Jennifer, for coordinating all of this. So.
And many thanks to the team. It has been a total team effort, and much gratitude to everyone who took the time to attend and work on our minds. And thank you, Venerable.
Yeah, I know there's a big IT presence behind it, making it happen. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.